Greetings, greetings, greetings. It's Paul Chase with the Paul Chase and Associates of Keller Williams. Want to give you a little bit of a market update and let you know what's happening, some of the statistics, and let you know what you can expect or what I see happening in the marketplace and what I think is going to happen here over the next few months. So let's get right to it. Got a couple of slides here prepared. I'm not going to give you a very long, boring PowerPoint. I don't really care for those, but let's take a look at it. Year over year, what we're seeing is, of course, showings have actually exploded, and so has new home purchase price or applications for mortgages. Now, considering this is year over year, so what was happening last year? Last year, we were in the beginning stages of COVID, and people were sitting on their hands. So it's not really hard to beat those numbers. However, existing home sales and new home sales are increasing. What is really startling, though, is the existing and new home inventory. Nationwide, we are looking at half the inventory that we had this time last year. That, to me, is just absolutely startling. Going forward, we're also seeing a rise in interest rates. For months and months and months, all we heard about was new record lows in interest rates. Right now, we're sitting at the Freddie Mac 30-year fixed at 3.18%. Keep this in perspective, folks. 3% money is still really, really good. But let's take a look at what's expected to happen. Most of the experts are predicting somewhere between 3 3/4 and still hanging out in the low to mid threes. George Ratu from the senior economist at Realtor.com. Home sellers and home buyers have gotten really used to these extremely low rates. Rates in the 3% to 3.4% range are extremely affordable by historical standards. Like I said, 3% money, it's still cheap money. The change in listings, we're way below the number of new listings available, but total listings, again, 52%, we're down 52% of what we had. We're seeing this trend pretty much across the country. The one or two exceptions would be Hawaii. That's Hawaii. Can you imagine? People are moving to Hawaii. How great would that be? What we're seeing, though, is people, I'm sure you've heard about this in the press, is that people are leaving New York, the high tax rates of New York, and they're going further up into New England. They're coming down the eastern seaboard, concentrating there along the high south and Georgia and the Carolinas, Tennessee. And frankly, they're moving right here into Pennsylvania. We're getting quite a few people moving from Manhattan and New York City, moving right in here into central PA. Dr. Len Fisher, the Deputy Director of FHFA, that's Federal Housing Finance Authority's Division of Research and Statistics. Housing prices nationwide recorded the largest annual and quarterly increase in the history of the Federal Housing Finance Authority's Housing Price Index. That's the FHFA HPI. Low mortgage rates, pent-up demand from home buyers, and a limited housing supply propelled every region of the country to experience faster growth in 2020 compared to a year ago, despite the pandemic. So why are we seeing this extremely limited supply? What's happened? Well, moving into before we got into 2006, 2007, we had record new home construction, especially compared to the moving 50-year average. Going into 2005, we had 4 consecutive years of record-setting number of new units hitting the market. 2006 happened, 2007, then we started a 13-year dearth of building. Now, as you'll notice, it's starting to slowly come back up, but we're nowhere near what we were before and nowhere near what we need. What's causing builders to not build? There's a number of factors there. I'm sure you've heard this before, the higher cost of supplies and the higher cost of labor. We're also running into some zoning restrictions. Too many communities are not allowing the denser packed housing that we need. There's not enough multi-units. There's not enough new housing where people, and I'm seeing this in my buyer request, is that people are looking for their living. I mean, they want some elbow room. They don't want their neighbors right on top of them. Well, that means we got to spread out. That leads to sprawl. That is causing a lot of issues. There's simply not, if things don't change on the zoning side, we could very easily run out of places to put people. We're also seeing, I mean, the neighbors, the people that are already living there, they don't want somebody coming in and moving in right on top of them. I get it. But at the same time, the amount of available land is fixed. There's just not a lot of things we can do about that. So we've either got to stand closer together or start going up. It's the only choices we really have. Let's take a look also at cash out refis. What's happening here? In 2006, we had $321 billion of equity taken out of the market. 2020, that was cut in half. So there's only about $153 billion of cash out refis. Let's talk a little bit about tappable equity. That's the amount of, excuse me, that's the amount available for homeowners to access before hitting the maximum 80% combined LTV or loan to value ratio. So if you've got a $100,000 house and you've got $80,000 of outstanding debt, that's 80% LTV. In 2020, the amount of tappable equity was hanging right around $7 trillion. When the market collapsed going into 2006, 2007, we were hanging around $4 trillion, and that's shown here. In 2006, 7% of the tappable equity was taken out. We're about 2% as to where we are right now. So there's still a lot of equity in homes. This is indicative of the higher prices that we're seeing. The Wall Street Journal reported that residential real estate markets on its biggest tear since 2006, just before the housing bubble burst and set off the global recession. Yet in nearly every meaningful way, today's market is the inverse of the previous boom. In the mid-2000s, loose mortgage lending standards enabled borrowers with poor credit histories to purchase homes beyond their means, sometimes with mortgages that required low payments in the early years of the loan. I remember way back when, 2005, 2006, if you were an adult and were vertical and could fog a mirror, you could get a loan. It didn't matter how much you made. It didn't matter what your credit history was. Anybody and everybody was getting a loan. A lot of times those were very risky loan products given to very risky borrowers. And with the demand for homes outpacing new listings, buyer competition continues to intensify. On average, there were 4 offers per home sold in February. According to the National Association of Realtors' latest February Realtors Confidence Index report, a monthly survey of realtors about their transactions. 1 year ago, there were 2 to 3 buyers for every home sold. The intense competition has led to double-digit price growth and property selling in record time. To get back to a healthy supply of 6 months of monthly demand, an additional 2.7 million homes should be on the market for sale, again, according to the National Association of Realtors. Here this is graphically, again, as you can see, 4 offers for every home. What does this mean for sellers? It's wonderful news for sellers. What does it mean for buyers? You need to be ready to, when the property of your dreams comes up for sale, you need to be ready to act and act fast, because you're almost guaranteed a competing offer situation. And if you have some questions about how to win in that market, let's chat. I've got some strategies that we can look at. So is this really like the last time? We're still seeing some appreciation, not as much as it was in 2005 going into the bubble of 2006. What's going to happen later on? Not entirely sure. There's a lot of variables that we simply don't know what's going to happen. So far, there's no signs of this letting up simply because the fundamentals of the market are still sound. And we see this in the product risk. Those risky loans that I was just talking about, those are all but disappeared. They pretty much have disappeared. Right now we're left with a pretty mundane FHA, VA, all of those, and the credit profiles have gotten stricter. So we're not lending money to the very risky borrowers. Actually, it's pretty difficult to get a loan right now. So we've got better buyers in the market with more sound lending practices. So a lot of that risk that drove the earlier bubble, that's gone. That brings us to the end of the PowerPoint. But again, so for buyers, if you're looking to buy this year, make sure that your credit is up and in the best shape that it could possibly be. I've got an article coming up here in the next few days about how to prepare or how to improve your credit. Also, be hoarding cash. Not only are we talking about monthly payments, but your closing costs. Those often will come back and bite buyers right in the rear end. Sellers, hey, if you're wanting to sell, we've got a number of different options for you. There's the traditional listing. We can also talk about our instant offer our instant offer solution, where you can maybe save a few dollars in commission and also not having to go through the hassles of repairing the property and going through all of the risk and headaches associated with showing. So if any of those projects or any of those products and programs sound of interest to you, give me a holler. Buyers, hey, if we want to talk about how to mitigate your risk and how to improve your chances of having your offer accepted when there's at least 3 other people competing, again, give me a call and we'll talk about it. Thanks for watching and make it a great day.